In contrast to you talking about taking care of business, Giselle Thomas lit it up for 39 points in the 60-44 Upper Sandusky. I thought it was going to be a much more competitive game than that, and it's they beat him by 16 points. I was just, it was one of those times when Norwalk just they started out early hot, and like Brock had been telling me in multiple interviews, the keys to one of their games is just grabbing those early steals, and it really does get the girls going. And Giselle was hot early on. I think she got her. Well, I know she got her first 4 consecutive shots were she hit them all.
Yeah.
And then she was just lighting it up from then on.
And Kevin Rasnick from WLKR was tweeting about that game and the preview of that game, and he was like, Upper Sandusky's like this number 2 team in the state or something like that.
Right.
And I was like, mark my words, Norwalk's going to win by double digits. I just when I saw them play against Ontario over at Ontario, they just look like a completely different team. They have this defensive game plan that is working very well, where they're face guarding the other team's best player. And then if you try and face guard Giselle Thomas, it's
right.
not going to work.
She's going to take you to the hoop, and that's just what she does. She got called for a couple traveling, but that's just what she does when she goes to the hoop sometimes. And interesting, you mentioned face guarding. That was one thing that Brock said that the girls were doing with the one of the girls from Upper Sandusky. Trying to remember her name. Number 12, Abigail Fogel. She's a junior.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, she can light it up from 3-point land. And Brock was like, we just want her to have no part of that whatsoever.
Right. Well, they have the athletes to keep those girls, the other teams from getting their best player from having the ball. They're just so athletic that they can run with them anywhere. So, and they can switch. They switch a lot on picks.
Right.
So that really helps them out by keeping themselves in front of them and then not just denying the ball the entire time.
Yeah. Why don't we introduce Eric Mazzina here? We got the voice of the Norwalk basketball.
Completely
That's
forgot.
all right.
Yeah, that's all right.
We went around.
Yeah,
we didn't even introduce ourselves.
We just jumped right in there, man.
Into it. Yeah, we should probably do that. I'm Luke Swartz.
Carrie Ashby.
Jake Fur.
Eric Mozina.
And Logan Gressler.
Funky Cole Mazzina.
I love it. Funky Cole Mazzina.
Yes. Would you like to talk about yourself just a little bit?
Well, I do football, basketball, wrestling, volleyball at the high school, so I pretty much call everything. Except for any of the spring sports, I'll take that time off. So.
How long have you been doing that?
I started last winter, so I
Okay.
did boys and girls basketball last year, and I've kind of continued on. So
Had you done other? I'm sorry to make this an interview, but had you done other basketball announcing before that? Or?
No, not really.
Okay.
I just love it. It's one of those things you kind of, I enjoy being in sports. I've coached, I've played, I've done everything, so it's kind of fun to
cool.
keep on going. And
What's I've always been curious about this, and I've meant to ask you just when we're talking at the scores table. What's the biggest challenge you have when you're announcing a game?
Well, and everybody that's been at the table will tell you, if you're out there for a boys game, Coach Gray is usually the biggest problem.
Yeah, we do kind of play dodging with them,
Yeah.
And the nice part is when you're scores tables when you can help each other out.
Oh, yeah.
Calling out numbers for who got.
We got a great group. We got a great group, and when you guys are there too, it's kind of fun. We'll mess with each other and stuff. But what Gray is really good about talking to the official, and when he's talking to the official and they're both in your way, you just can't see.
No, not at all.
It's just,
and then sometimes there are angles where you just can't see, regardless of who's not in front of you either.
Yeah, and then Chris Higgins, who runs the sideboard, him and I talk a lot about. We just wonder what everybody behind us thinks if they're watching us. Just bobbing and weaving all over the place, trying to find out what happened during the game. So,
or if they see me and you're playing good music, I'm kind of dancing in my seat
true,
sometimes too. So,
well, hopefully, if I do the right stuff, everybody's dancing.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you do a great job with the music.
Yeah, we have fun with it.
Really, yeah, it's a good time.
Very cool.
Deleting our first Facebook Live video because we had some technical issues.
Okay.
We should just rename the show the Norwalk Reflector Technical Issue Podcast.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks straight on that. We're doing well.
We had audio,
and I think 2 weeks before that we had problems too, didn't we? It's a good time. Yeah.
So, Jake, you want to talk a little bit about probably the best game of the weekend?
Which one was that?
Western Reserve and Seneca East.
It was just a bad game for Western Reserve. They held the lead for until it was like 4-0 in the first, and then didn't have it again until like late in the third. They hit a 2-pointer, and then Seneca East came right back down and scored with like 3 seconds later, and that was it. The number 1 overall seed just didn't get it done. But Seneca East, you got to give credit to Seneca East. They're a very good tournament basketball team. They went to regionals last year. I think they were the number 5 seed in their division, in their district. So, having that kind of experience and knowing how to win in tournament time is huge, and it's almost everything come this time of the year because anything can happen. And they just, Seneca East just won it. Western Reserve just, I don't know, they just didn't have that game plan. They didn't have the.
I was just stunned when you told me that that Western had gotten beaten. I was like, say what?
Yeah.
It just took me a while to compute that. But like you said, anything can happen in tournament time.
Yeah, and I mean, it was kind of those weird feeling games too, because it just, you kind of had that feeling that there was going to be an upset in that one, and that's what happened. I don't know if you can really call it seed wise. You got to call it an upset. I think it was like a 5 over a 1, but that's a very young group.
I think anytime a 1 gets eliminated that quickly from the bracket, it's definitely got to be an upset.
Yeah, but it's a young group over there at Western. They only have 1 senior, like we always talk about.
Right.
So a lot of them, it was their first actual meaningful tournament game. Sectional final, you're playing for a championship. It was a lot of pressure on those guys. So it's understandable. They're going to be back strong as ever next year. I don't see anybody beating them. I see them in the district finals next year for sure.
And I think I've talked to them before, but I think even the reserves, coming up, I think you've got a really strong foundation there, and I think they're going to be a good team to. Yeah. Have you seen them play at all, Eric?
Well, we actually hosted them last year, and you could see the pieces and parts last year. It was really cool. Yeah. So I kept up with them, and I know some of the players or family that's there. So.
Yeah.
Now, was I told correctly? I was told at the game I was at that Western was up 14 points.
No.
I was told that Western was up like 14, and then Seneca came back and beat them. They were up 14 in the third.
No, they were only up 4 at the beginning.
That's why I thought it was the best game of the weekend, because I was told that at the game.
I think the best game of the weekend had to be Logan's Monroeville St. Paul girls.
Yeah, that was a huge game. It was St. Paul was able to pull that one out there at the end, but Monroeville really made a great effort in that game. They were leading at halftime by by 2 points, and then St. Paul just came back and started out second half on a 6-point run to take back the lead, and they held that lead until Monroeville tied it late in the fourth. Taylor Rear hit a 3-pointer to tie it up at 35 with under a minute to go, and then there was 2 straight turnovers from St. Paul, and Monroeville just wasn't able to capitalize on them and score. And they came down. Flyers came down and were able to score off an inbounds, and that was the game-winning basket. Lauren LaCasco with the dish from Painley, who's been really the most solid player they have on that team. I believe she's second right now in the Firelands Conference, averaging like 16.3 points a game or something like that. Just a really solid effort from her in this whole senior class, really, to come in here, take their first sectional title since 2013. It's just a real testament to these co-conference champions.
When that game came up on the bracket, I was like, okay, that's going to be a really good one. Even though St. Paul beat them twice throughout the year, and it was a little bit closer the second time around. I think it was close both times.
So St. Paul beat Monroeville 3 times this season by a combined 12 points. It was 6, 4, and 2.
Yeah. So and Monroeville was kind of sitting there at the bottom half of the standings a whole season long. But whenever those 2 teams play, man,
that's what Brad said earlier this season. Says it doesn't matter when we play, what sport it is, it's always going to be a dogfight, and that's true. That's just a really solid rivalry right there.
And Monroeville, I know from talking to any of them, they always get up for a St. Paul game, and like you said, Logan, doesn't matter what sport it is, they want a piece of St. Paul, and I think the Lady Eagles were one of those teams that they were definitely better than their record indicated.
Yeah,
would you agree?
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I covered their first game against Lucas, and if you would have watched that game and been like, okay, now they play St. Paul, you would have thought it would have been a blowout. It was 3-2 after the first quarter, and they had no energy. They just weren't hitting any shots.
They being Monroeville?
Monroeville, yeah.
Okay.
They came out very, very slow, but I think they were kind of looking ahead a little bit. They were looking a little bit past Lucas. But they came out with a win, which is all that matters in tournament time, and then just about pulled that upset off, which would have been crazy. Talk about March Madness starting early.
Oh,
That
yeah.
would have been nuts. So
Yeah.
March Madness, our favorite subject around here.
Mhm.
I know Luke loves that a lot.
Luke,
They've got two other girls, Hendrickson and Skidova, who can take care of business on the inside.
So I'm going to be covering that St. Pete, St. Paul game. So what kind of matchups is that going to be, you think?
Well, I think it's going to be a really good matchup. You're two really decent schools. That's the second game I've seen at St. Pete's, and both times they just dominated. So St. Paul's going to have to do something about, making sure that they're able to keep Blunk away from the 3-point line, because that's where she's best, at least from what I've seen. And they're going to have to make sure that Roth and LaCasco are up to the challenge to guard Skidova and Hendrickson.
and Carrie was at a pretty good one. That Norwalk girls game that we talked a little bit about. They play Shelby, and if I had the scores right, let me look up the scores here. Last time they played Shelby, I would imagine you were probably
I was at the
You
home,
were
the home game. I
the
didn't
home
go
game. You were at that one. Shelby's a co-champion. I think they're number 10 in the state, one-loss team. But the way the Truckers are playing right now, it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that could be a good game. I saw a little bit of the Shelby game as I was sitting there waiting for the Norwalk game, but wasn't even thinking about the fact that they might even be playing each other.
Yeah, and we looked at the bracket, and we're guaranteed a district champion from the NOL, no matter what.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
In the final season ever in the NOL.
That's true.
Yeah, you've got Bellevue and
So it's
Ontario,
pretty cool.
Shelby and Norwalk. So.
Yeah, I would love to see Norwalk play for that first ever district title.
Oh, yeah.
They've never won a district title in program's history. This has to be the best team in program history. I would imagine.
Oh yeah, they have the records. But that Shelby team, though, I mean, the one thing to worry with them is just they're just really fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
I mean, they just do everything right. Everybody seems to be in the right spots all the time, which is pretty. I mean, I watch them 2 years in a row, and they do the same things, and they do them so well that they make the right pass. And I'm a stickler for like doing a bounce pass, that kind of thing. And they're doing those all the time and getting them to the right spot, and people are in the right spot for rebounding and that kind of stuff. And so they're going to be tough. But Norwalk, they're playing well. They're really playing well, and not just your starters. I mean, not just Giselle, but you got the other two Thomas girls too. That they. I think sometimes it seems like the way they play is how the team goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Giselle's going to, most of the time she's going to get her points. Let's be honest. I mean, you just can't stop her.
And I think it was Jasmine Thomas early in that game against Upper Sandusky. She was really putting it on as far as defense. And I think, like you said, once one of them gets going, it does get the rest of the team going. And Jasmine was deflecting passes. She had 2 steals. And
Well, again, you go back to the athletic ability.
Absolutely.
I mean, they can guard any spot. That's what's great about them. I mean, they can just, they fill in at every spot. Then you've got, Adriana who'll go in there, Rodriguez, and get the rebounds whenever you need them. She plays pretty good defense, and then
she had 2 blocks. I was proud of her for saying that. I was like, "You go, Johnny." Had 2 blocks. That was nice.
Yeah, Garrett's. She was phenomenal the other day, and she. Sometimes I feel like because she's young, she's still a sophomore, but she's coming down the court, and sometimes you're like, is she still going to have the ball when she gets where she wants to go? And just because she wants it so bad, it's really fun to watch her. But then when she comes out, a lot of times they'll bring in Bethany Crane, and she's really good at defense.
Yeah, she's a go-getter.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the players do things that don't show up in a stat.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Garrett's and Kaylin Harkness.
Harkness, yeah.
They're probably the 2 best defenders in the NOL. I mean, they seem to just shut down.
And you're right, and that's common with a lot of teams that I've covered. I'll be putting together the final stats, and I'll be like, "What do you mean this person only had 4 points? I saw this person just boogieing up and down the court." Well, but again, like you said, it's stuff that's not necessarily going to show up in a story, much less in the final stats.
Yeah, and Harkness, when she comes out of the game, it looks like she's about to die.
She needs to carry
Oh
on.
yeah, I mean, she gives you everything she's got. She's a lot of fun to watch.
And the 2 times they played, Norwalk's played Shelby. The first time around, they lost 56-53. Second time around, they lost 64-60. So it's going to be another barn burner.
Yeah, it'll be a fun game.
And with this much on the line, it's going to be fun to see what Norwalk pulls out there.
You guys pick Bellevue over Ontario?
I would pick Bellevue for sure.
Yeah, so more technical issues. The audio stopped
Oh,
again.
good times.
This time it was only for like a minute, so
Okay.
the podcast will be in 2 parts again. But
I know we're talking girls basketball, but I want to give a shout out to the girls cheerleading squad making it to state first time in the program. That's a great accomplishment, and got to interview a couple of the girls and the coach yesterday, and they're pretty excited, and it was nice to hear them being confident with what they were doing as when they qualified for state. They said they came off and it just felt right. So good for them.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that works. Do they have like sectional tournaments?
They
and
call it a
stuff?
regional qualifier. I didn't know either, so that's why I had to ask a lot of questions. And so it's not that they're necessarily competing against other teams. They have to get a certain amount of points. I'm assuming that there's certain parts of their performance that they're ranked on, and I guess if they get a certain score, that qualifies them. Does that sound right to you,
That's
Eric?
what I've heard.
Yeah. Okay. And
It's kind of like a gymnastics type thing where each team is competing. They're technically competing with one another,
right.
but they're judged on their own performances,
Right.
not their performance
Yeah.
against someone else.
But I was talking to Coach Christy Wirt and good bunch of girls, and that's exciting that they get a first. And actually, they're one of 3 local teams qualified for state as far as cheerleading. You got Bellevue and Monroeville as well. I'm not sure if they're in the same division or not, but
I know
good on them too.
Christy posted the other day. I guess they were supposed to go Sunday at like 5 or 6 o'clock at night now, and now it's like somewhere between 8 and noon. So if anybody wants to go,
I know she kept checking. She wanted to see what time they were performing or whatever. So, and the send off is Friday at 1:30. About so.
So, Jake, you were at the wrestling tournament in Plymouth, sectional wrestling tournament.
Yeah, it was
Talk
a
little
Division
bit about
III sectional wrestling. Obviously Edison was there, and I mean they kind of just dominate everything. They're having one of the most phenomenal months I've ever seen. They just won a state dual title, SBC title, and now they won the sectional by I think it was like 176 points or something like that. I mean, they just kind of ran away with
is
it.
that the equivalent of a blowout?
Yeah, I think that'd be a
wrestling
really
or what?
I believe they sent like 14 kids to districts, or 12 or 14. I can't remember which one it was, but they just they had everybody in the championship round. I thought Edison's coach pretty much just had a nameplate on the back of the seat because he didn't even have to move half the time. But I think we had about 37 kids advance to the district meet. So I mean that's huge for this area, and that's what 8 out of 8 schools. So Norwalk wasn't included in that, but Norwalk's sending 7 kids to districts too. So I mean,
this is just a really good area for wrestlers.
Yeah.
I don't know what they put in the water.
We talked about that in an earlier episode.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, this area is really good for wrestling.
And I just thought it was just going to be a certain time there with Monroeville getting the sweet spot with what they call the Fab Four.
Yeah.
But a lot more better wrestlers than just Monroeville, obviously.
Yeah. And the match of the night was at the 145 weight class. Derek Gross and Alex Newberger went up against each other.
That was a good one.
You saw it the first time around.
That was,
it was 1-1 and it went into overtime. And
you can if Derek Gross's name is in a match, that's going to be the match of the night. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It just seems like he's head and shoulders above everybody. Him and Sam Stoll. I mean, I watched Sam Stoll, and it was just, he's just so aggressive and physical, and
those are 2 kids that are also excellent football players too.
Yeah.
Both running backs.
Yeah. That was the match of the night. It went into overtime, and then Derek Gross scored a takedown pretty late in the overtime period and took the match. But that was one of the most thrilling ones. I think everybody had eyes on that one. They weren't even paying attention to the other 2 matches going on. But
I'm pretty sure the first time they wrestled, it went late into the 3rd period, or it might have just been a decision by the end. It definitely wasn't a pin.
And a kid from South Central Dakota Blanton advanced as well. He just kind of blew through everybody. I think he won his final by 7-2 over an Edison kid. So he's going on. Gage Griffith took 2nd. Tyler Ramage, a freshman who's over at Western Reserve, took 2nd. And then we have a Plymouth kid, Seth Bailey, and Seth Bailey and Josh Dove are both advancing too. So we have some pretty good representation in this area. Colton Millis from Monroeville, they're all going.
Trey LaRue advances.
He did not. He didn't get to wrestle. He had a rash or something like that, and he wasn't. He was cleared by doctors the day before. Then they went in, and the doctor at the tournament said he couldn't go. So he wasn't able to do that, which is it was disappointing. I was looking forward to seeing him wrestle because he probably would have won the sectional championship in the heavyweight division. The kid that he beat at conference ended up winning that. So. But yeah, it was a fun one. It was long. It was 11 to 5. Yeah, it was started Friday at 5. So then they did all the finals and the constellation rounds on Saturday. So
now, can you explain how it works? I hear that they want a state duel. So you said they want a state, then they want a conference, now a sectional. It seems backward.
Well, they do the state duels. So it's like a team going against another team. So say the two 106 kids will wrestle against each other, and they score so many points for that outcome. So, and then they combine the team points to see who wins out of those two teams. It's almost like basketball.
Right.
So look at it like basketball. But now with the sectional, it's individual plus it's team scores. So individuals, you're wrestling. You're not wrestling just one team. So like say Edison will wrestle against Western and Plymouth and Monroeville and whoever. It's all individual that goes into the final bracket. So this is the individual tournament, but you still get points for a team. It's a little bit confusing, but
that's clear as mud.
That's a good explanation, but I'm still confused.
Right. He knows what he's talking about.
Right.
You can tell.
I'm just but I still have no idea what that means.
Right.
I think they try to confuse it with everything with wrestling until you finally get into it and start paying attention, because that's how I was at the high school too. I'm like, what the heck? Like, how did they get a point there? I don't understand. And now year 2, you're like, oh, this is cool. I get it now.
Right.
And there's a lot of different ways to score points. And I don't even know all of it right.
You get style points? Do you get style points?
I guess you can.
This is not the WWE.
No, sorry. Okay.
You get points for the entrance.
Yeah.
Music,
the way you raise your arms and come
Right.
into the arena. Okay, no. All right.
Boy.
See, Zach says Jake
Again. That's what Zach.
So let's find out where we're all going to be this weekend.
This weekend it looks like we got a very, very busy weekend. Thursday we're going to have 3 girls games. All those are going to be district semifinal games. So those are going to be very important. Logan's going to be covering Shelby against Norwalk over at Willard. Carrie will be at the St. Paul St. Pete's game over at Seneca East. And then I'm going to cover the Willard and Seneca East girls game over at Shelby. So all 3 of those are going to be very fun games to watch. And if those all 3 teams win, they play again on Saturday. So for district titles.
That's a lot of. We're not 100% sure about Saturday because we have to wait until Thursday.
Definitely,
to find out who's
that's basically how we are this whole week. We're a lot of sit and wait
Right.
and see results and stuff like that. Friday, Friday is going to be up in the air again, but I think we have quite a few things hashed out. New London's definitely in the sectional final. They're going to play Clear Fork or Galleon. I'll be over at that one, and then I'll stick around and cover Western Reserve and Willard in the sectional final that night, which I think we talked about it last time. That's going to be the first, from what I've researched and what I know, that's going to be the first ever meeting between Western Reserve and Willard in boys basketball. So that's pretty cool. Monroeville against St. Pete's boys. Logan's going to be over at that one. That's going to be at Lexington, and then he's going to stick around and cover. If South Central wins tonight, he'll cover South Central against Winford or Mansfield Christian. And then, let's see, St. Paul will play either Plymouth or Buckeye Central on Friday. Kerry will be over at that one. So got a lot of basketball going on. We'll probably get Luke a game. Right now I have him in as, if Norwalk can pull off the upset tonight, I'll have him over there at Galleon against Lexington. If not, maybe we'll send him to another game. That way people don't have to pull double duty. And
it'll be a different team that Shelby will be facing against Norwalk, because they got Haraway back, and what Coach Gray pointed out to me, that they were missing 2 of their starters the last time, and Shelby beat them by 5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, what's your take on what you're going to see between Norwalk and Shelby this time?
Well, I think Norwalk has a chance. Obviously with Haraway back, I think that really helps. I haven't heard. I know we had an injury on Friday
Yeah,
night.
Mitch. Have you heard anything about Mitchell Perry at all?
What I was hearing, I heard from kids that he wasn't playing, that he's done. I'm not sure.
He looked like he was in serious pain.
Yeah, he did.
It was my heart really went out to the Perrys. I know his mom and dad. His dad's a firefighter over here, and it just broke my heart to. Well, and I don't like to see anybody hurt, but you could just tell from the way he went down, and he stayed down for a long time.
Yeah, we were talking about it. It
was bad. Yeah, we were. Yeah.
Yeah, what was it that happened?
It was a knee situation of some sort. I didn't see the collision. Did you?
No, there wasn't one. What happened was his man went from low post to the opposite side to set a pick, and he was coming up, and he just went and to go with him, and his body just didn't go.
Just went in directions it shouldn't go. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh,
so with that, if he's out tonight, that means that Eric Hall's probably starting a spot. Eric's been, I'll tell you, over the last month, he's been really stepping up his game. I mean, we were talking. I think it was you and I at the game about. I don't think I've ever seen him jump that high before, and I've had him since 5th grade. I've known him. So he was getting way up there and getting rebounds on people that were a lot taller than him. I mean, last year the kid's playing point guard at JV as a backup, and now he's your starting center tonight. Probably. So
and Mitchell's one of those kids you don't see a lot in the final stats, but he's going after balls, getting a lot of working to get rebounds. Maybe doesn't have a whole lot in the stat book, but he's definitely doing a lot of work there.
Well, and he's boxing out the biggest kid from the other team and letting somebody else get a rebound.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. It'll be a really interesting game. I think if they can get Roth and even Troutman in that hitting some shots, they have a good chance tonight. Haraway, bringing the ball down the court opens up some of those other shots.
He's so fast.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Fouls can be an interesting thing in those games.
Yeah.
And that's where it's been a lot. There's been some foul problems on both sides in those other games.
So besides the Norwalk game, is there any boys games tonight that stick out for anybody? I know Plymouth plays Buckeye Central. It's a lower seeded game, but I'm interested to see who wins that game. Obviously, because I went to Plymouth, but for other reasons as well.
Well, Plymouth won the first time around against Buckeye Central, but Plymouth's just kind of a very hard team to figure out. I think we talked about that last time. They're so up and down.
They're Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, they had New London on the ropes. And then I think they only scored about 5 points in the fourth quarter and ended up losing it.
And that Western Reserve game as well.
Yeah, they took them 2 points. I think they took South Central to 2 points.
And then they lost to Monroeville.
Yeah, lose to Monroeville in overtime. So they're hard to figure out, and they have a lot of seniors on that team, so they should be doing a lot better than what they are. But sometimes you just have that kind of season.
Right. When I watch them, they just don't seem to have an identity.
Yeah.
They don't really know what they want to be, and I don't know. I wish the best for them, but I mean,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Whoever wins that one will play St. Paul. So, they have whoever wins that has a tall order. Even though St. Paul is on quite a losing streak right now, but they lose their last 3 of the season, I believe. Let me see what.
I think they lost their last 3 because I covered their Mapleton game.
Yeah, lost to Mapleton.
The last game of the year.
Lost to Sandusky Perkins and lost to Western Reserve. So I mean they're kind of on a skid right now, so it's you can't really.
And this is not a good time of the season to have a skid. It's kind of like the end of an NFL season. You want to have that momentum as you're ending the season so that you're going to do well in playoffs.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see how they respond to the 3-game losing streak. So we'll see.
Let's talk for a second about sectional locations. I was talking with one of the guys at the. I was at the sectional games in Lexington on Saturday, and he brought this up, and I thought it was a good point. For the sectional tournament only, they should just have the higher seed host it, don't you think? Because I mean, I'm in Lexington, and they're having Huron and Edison travel all the way to Lexington to play a game, and Fostoria and all these other teams, and it's like, why are we having these teams travel so far for sectional games?
Well, what they do is they have the sectional sites, but at the drawing they allow teams to pick where they want to be in the bracket. So there's a lot of things to think about, especially where one team goes if you want to avoid that team or if you want to go after that team. So it kind of plays into like the matchup and the gameplay of the bracket. So like Division III, you have games at Willard or Lexington. So you had Willard going to Lexington just because they can't play at their home. They're not allowed to play at their home floor right now in the tournament in the tournament draw. I think that's what kind of screwed everything up. That they actually had for Division III a sectional site of a school that's actually in that district.
So that just made everything complicated. Then.
Yeah, it made everything complicated. They could have had it set up where Edison would have went to Willard,
Right.
or Margaret and Mohawk went to Willard, which is, that's where they probably should have gone. So Edison and Riverdale, Huron, they could have all went to Willard and have been a lot closer. But with the whole Willard situation, they weren't allowed to play, so they had to go to Lexington, which forced another school to have to go to.
I think it's probably a two-pronged thing where the state probably wants control over the games, and it's much easier at less locations.
Yeah, that's more than likely to. In football they do like the first 2 rounds,
right?
Higher seeds
right.
host. So that's I don't know how the thinking behind all of that, but I just think it makes it a lot easier for teams to scout other teams too, because you're going to play the game playing before you. If you win, your next game, you've already seen that team play,
right.
so you know what's going on, which kind of plays into the gameplay of that too. So.
I still don't like the idea of having teams travel an hour to an hour and a half just to go to a sectional game. When look, like it or not, a lot of these teams have no business in the tournament.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think there was a Newark played someone and beat them like 105-3.
Right, and they have to travel all that way to go get beat by 70 points.
Right. So it's there's some hiccups in this whole system, but those kind of games could be avoided with first round byes. There's going to be a game, I think either tonight or tomorrow. I think it's tonight. Mansfield St. Pete's boys decided not to take a first round bye, so nobody, when you go and pick your position on the bracket, nobody's going to go play them in the first round. Mm-hmm. Besides the last team available.
It's almost like not it,
Right.
Not it.
Yeah.
I don't want to play them.
So the last team available, which is the bottom seed in the bracket, has to play them the first round, which is Danbury. That game's going to be ugly.
Right.
And then nobody wants to play them the second time around in the second round. So then the second to last team has to take them in the second round. So it's just going to be some things like that can be avoided.
Do we have anything else up there?
Matthew Wadsworth says hello all. So
hey Matthew.
Hello,
Matthew.
Matthew's been great following us on Twitter and
Yes,
stuff
we're
like that.
appreciative.
So it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Always good that we can reach out to people who
Right.
are passionate about local sports. It's awesome.
Yeah, this podcast, forgive me, it's probably going to be broken up in multiple chunks again. I'm just to the point where I just laugh when I see it's messed up because there's nothing I can do about it. So we
might have to get another room or a different room.
Maybe we get a different person to run
Start
our
going on
run
remote.
our podcast. What do you think?
Just
I'm
go on
taking
remote.
my podcast with me. You're going to take me to court.
Just taking you. Jeez, you Luke.
So, does anybody else have any high school stuff they'd like to talk about? Do you want to give maybe a little bit of your predictions for the Norwalk tournament games?
Well, I actually think the girls will win on Thursday. I think they have a really good chance, and I think the way they're playing right now, I think they're going to win that game. I'll be there, so hopefully that'll be something that's not thrown back in my face later.
You'll be a good luck charm.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I'm not always a good luck charm. At home they didn't win every game at home, but I think the boys, tonight. With the injury, I don't know, but man, I don't know. I have a feeling they'll win tonight too. So,
but like you pointed out, Eric Cole, been taking care of business when he comes off the bench. So let's just see how he does as a starter.
Yeah, why not? I mean, he did start a good amount of the season earlier with Harry was gone. I mean, we needed receivers, and we had a quarterback that's a receiver that did better than him. I mean,
I think we have enough 5'9" wide receivers to go around.
Yeah.
I love Andrew Hawkins. He's one of the good guys in the sport, but when you have as many, we drafted 4 receivers in the draft. We have a crowded receiving core, and we don't have room for a veteran that doesn't produce.
And here's the crazy part: we got a crowded receiving core with no downfield threat.
Yeah, Corey Coleman should be, but he wasn't last year. Yeah.
That's who we were banking on to be it.
Well, I almost don't blame the receivers because when you have 3 quarterbacks,
running
4,
for
I guess,
life.
with Charlie Whitehurst.
Yeah.
Yeah, rotating in and out.
Jesus.
Yeah, I actually got to go to a game he
Clipboard
played,
Jesus,
unfortunately.
absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I went up and watched him play. I think it was either the Patriots or the Jets. I can't remember which game it was I went to.
The only game I was able to make it to this season was when they played Cincinnati at home, and that was they lost obviously, but that was a
bad game.
so exciting time to be able to spend with my dad and watch RG3.
It's
Scores
That was
first
a snowy
touchdowns.
game, right?
Yeah, it was. It was.
When he threw the flea flicker out of his own end zone.
I don't think
that was the Cincinnati game this year.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was
when,
drunk
when
by
you're
then.
sitting at one end of the end zone,
Yeah.
one end of the stadium behind the end zone, it's kind of hard to see what goes on
Right.
the end.
Yeah.
A 15-yard play looks like a 5-yard play.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
You see that ball go up there, and you're like, "Oh man, he just probably gained about 30 yards." Oh, it's no.
And that's a
not.
12-yard
Yeah.
12-yard completion. What? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I watched the first half about every game and then
I
turned it off.
fell asleep and didn't miss anything.
Exactly,
You know?
I would fall asleep at.
Did you
about
didn't
middle
watch
of
all the San Diego game?
I don't think so.
Man, I watched every minute of every Browns game for the past 4 years.
I just couldn't do
I
it.
love
this
them, man.
You like to
couldn't do
torture
it.
yourself.
I
Yeah.
love the Browns, yeah, but I couldn't do it.
Did you-
They would go down by 2 scores, and I'm like, okay.
Did you guys
it's over.
ever go to games?
I've been to them the past 2 or 3 years.
Do you
I was
guys
actually-
go to one?
Speaking of Kirk Cousins, I got to see his NFL debut. I got
Really?
to see that Redskins. Well, and it was really cool also to see my team, the Redskins, play my second team.
Right.
In person and at a different stadium. So I've seen the Skins play at 3 different facilities, which is very
Which
cool.
ones?
I saw them at RFK Stadium.
Where's that? Is that
That,
New York?
That was in downtown DC.
I've never heard of RFK Stadium.
Man,
He's young.
And now it's FedEx Field,
RFK.
right?
No, that's a different facility. That's in Landover. That's over where beside what used to be called the Capitol Center, or I guess it still is. I don't know, but that's where the Washington Capitals used to play. And so I've seen them play there at FedEx Field, and now I've seen them play at then it was Brown Stadium, but it was cool.
Yeah, the best Browns game I've been able to watch was when they beat the Steelers at home in 2014. It was the
That's when the
finals.
Steelers had 7 fumbles.
Yeah, it did. It was 31-10, and I remember it was me and a few friends went to see it, and it didn't matter how much we were up by. It never felt like the lead was secured.
No,
Right.
I feel the same way when the Skins play the Cowboys. You can't be up enough on your mortal enemy. It's like we can be up by 80 points, and I'm still on the edge of my seat going, okay, go clock, go.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for the clock.
Yep.
Yeah, we went to a game 2 years ago, I think, when they played Pittsburgh at home. And it was probably about negative 50 degrees outside, and
Negative
my breath
50.
was freezing to my scarf.
That's a good time right there.
And then there was just a wind coming in, and we were kicking a
Was
game-winning
that
field goal, and it came up and just blew right back. It was like they just didn't want us to win.
So have you seen any Browns
Oh,
games?
I go to about 3 a year.
3 a year,
Yeah,
okay.
I only went to 2 this year. I went to see him play the Jets and see him play the Patriots because Tom Brady's my favorite player ever. So I dished out the cash to go see that. I watched him play the Broncos the year before and the Jets. I think the year before as well. They play the Packers at home this year. I want to go see him play
That'd be
Aaron
nice.
Rodgers.
I didn't get to see him this year, but I've seen him 3 years before that. So
Yeah. Well, let's close it off with Darren Williams signing with the Cavs. Cavs have been. LeBron needed his explicitive playmaker.
Needed his
Yeah.
players and
Oh,
everything else.
yeah.
I won't say that.
Yeah, it doesn't. That was such a dumb thing. Yeah, anyway,
now, has Williams played with LeBron before?
just on Team USA.
Yeah, so
Mm.
he's a, I
Okay.
mean, he's a good player and good point guard.
They said he's the best backup point guard in the NBA now.
I'll take him.
I'll take him as well. 13 points a game. They said he's one of the best pick and roll players. When you have LeBron and Tristan Thompson, you're going to be running a lot of pick and rolls.
We're paying him $500,000 this year when New Jersey's
Yep.
paying him 16 and 16 million, and Dallas is paying him 4.
And you told Dallas I'd rather play for the Cavs. Okay,
I'd rather
well,
you pay me to play for the Cavs.
all right, see ya, bye.
Yeah. And then he's going to recruit Andrew Bogut too.
I wanted to
But
speak about him for a second.
Bogut's kind of holding out a little bit.
Yeah.
It seems like
Well, he has to
he's got
sign-
some visits. Okay.
So his decision will be coming down soon. The thing about Bogut is he was playing in Dallas, so his family's down there because that's where he signed in the offseason. He's probably planning on spending a couple years down there. So he gets bought out, and now it's Cleveland and San Antonio and some other team.
Boston.
Is it Boston?
Yeah.
I think that's a long shot. I think it's probably Cleveland and San Antonio.
I
Would
think
you guys
Wendy had
agree?
him as the Celtics were actually leading.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they said this afternoon.
Well, I heard that he did not want to uproot his family in the middle of the season to go play somewhere else because he would go play for San Antonio so they wouldn't have to move from Dallas. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what they were speaking about as well, but who knows? Maybe he's going to want to get his revenge on the.
If he wants to get a championship, I mean, he probably wants to go to Cleveland, I would think.
Us or the Spurs.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's up to him at the end. At the end of the day, I'm interested to see what they do if he doesn't sign, because you go with Larry Sanders,
Right.
who, I mean, I like Larry Sanders, but he was arrested in June on a felony, and they haven't released what it was, and he hasn't played in like 2 years. He was like a Defensive Player of the Year candidate when he did play.
Yeah.
But can you trust him to come back, especially in the short amount of time when we're coming down to crunch time? I don't
And
know.
will either one of them even play if we play Golden State in the finals?
Right.
You know, I don't think either one plays.
Adding Bogut doesn't help us against Golden State.
No.
Because he doesn't do anything, like it doesn't take away anything. They shoot outside. He's
Right.
not going to be
Well, they didn't play him.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't play
They
him
play
because
outside.
we're similar teams. Yeah, so he's going to play about 5 minutes a game with us if he signs.
Right.
I think the Darren Williams signing is a big signing. I don't think the Bogut signing is a big deal.
I think we'll be all right without him.
How long till J.R. Smith comes back? Anybody heard?
They said that he and Kevin Love should both be back by the end of March. So
Wow, would they come back at the same time? That'd be
yeah,
crazy.
right around the end of March. So I'm imagining it'll probably be.
Talk about a whole new Cavs team once they come back.
Yeah, we're missing.
Especially
we're
with
missing
J.R.
that other
Smith, you
scorer,
know.
Yeah.
Well, think about that. Like, our second team might be better than some teams' first teams.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's
I like
awesome.
that actually.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Before we close the podcast, I just want to throw out there something I was just looking at is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the 8 boys Firelands Conference teams were 500 or better this season.
And I wrote a column about that, or like when I first started here, I was like, you know, past couple of years we've only had 1, 2, 3, 500 record teams, and
You know,
we have 8.
that's just a big shout out right now for all of our Firelands Conference teams and our NOL and teams in Edison up in the SBC. Just a great basketball season, and looking forward to the tournament time.
Been fun to watch, that's for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kerry texted me the other night. He's like, "Man, it's been fun to watch. Man, I'm tired." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's been a long year. We've covered
Yes,
a lot
it
of
has.
games.
Yeah,
So,
you know.
it's that's what we're here for." So
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of nice words over the past couple of days. It really means
Yeah.
a lot to us.
And from people who, have been, I got one from a former lady trucker. We got one from a Monroeville basketball coach. Thanks,
Some
thanks,
coaches
Coach.
and stuff.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Coach Brad. We appreciate that.
They're thanking us for the coverage. We want to thank them for giving us entertaining basketball to watch.
Right.
Because this job wouldn't be anywhere near as fun if we had to go watch boring games with bad
Yeah,
teams. These teams are fun to watch.
I don't think I've had a sluggish game. I think the only one I had was at the very beginning of the year when St. Paul played South Central. But I mean, and girls. But every game that I've been to has been very, very close, very exciting.
I've seen a lot of lopsided games because I've covered a lot of Western and Norwalk girls. But but it's been good basketball, and
At least your teams come out on top on that. It's bad when you have to write about something that a team.
what are
in
you
your
talking?
area comes
It's,
out bad.
they're coaches. When especially like football, I remember it's like, okay, well, what do we talk about now?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And also, Jake's wearing the sweatshirt. I'm wearing the sweatshirt. We want to
We're the
throw
only
out.
two.
Yeah, we want to throw out a thank you to local scenes.
Got a Norwalk Reagan Complex shirt on.
That's the first time I've seen Logan without the shirt on.
Right.
I thought he just like took all the extras.
We don't want to see him without a shirt though. He's got to wear a shirt though.
Oh, yeah,
He's-
definitely.
Yeah, we want to thank local seams. The stuff's great. I mean, I've worn this like almost every day last week since
It's
I've
like-
gotten it.
it's like
I'd be tempted to.
But I took one of the extras home to my wife, and she wears it basically every single night when we're just lounging around. So
There you go, yeah,
it's her favorite one.
I was lounging to mine the other night and very, very comfy.
Yeah, we love them. So go to localseams.com, like them on Facebook, like them on Twitter, like them on Instagram at localseams. Go on. They're still having the sale for the South Central Dinner Theater, I think, until March 2nd. So you have a couple days to get on there and get that stuff. Check them out. They have great stuff. We're really thankful for them letting us have some of their merch. It's great stuff.
Yes.
And it really is good stuff. We're not just blowing smoke like we like to say. I mean, it's really, really is good stuff. So before we go, we want to give out our Twitter handles so you can like us or follow us, I guess. I'm at Luke Swartz2, SWARTZ.
I'm at Carey_reporter at CARY.
I'm at Jake Fur 11.
I'm at Mo Norwalk, all one word.
And mine's at Logan Gressler, GRESZLER.
So thank you for joining us on the 6th episode of the Norwalk Reflector podcast, sports podcast, I should say. We'll be back again next week, probably doing some more Facebook Live stuff. Thank you for joining us again. I know the podcast is going to be in chunks again, but thanks for sticking it out to the end, and see you next week.